All right, today we are going to look at lesson 1.9. And in this lesson, we're going to talk about how can you use the strategy solve a simpler problem to help you solve a division problem. So really what we're looking at here is some problem solving and possibly some multiple step problems. We're just going to jump right in. And the first problem we're going to look at is here, and it's about Mark. And it says Mark works at an animal shelter. And to feed 9 dogs, Mark empties 8 18-ounce cans of dog food into a large bowl. If he divides the food equally among the dogs, how many ounces of food will each dog get? Now, when we look at multiple step problems, or when we look at any word problem for that matter, the first thing we should really do is we should really figure out, like, what is the question that they're asking us to answer. The really nice thing about like elementary school math is that they usually finish questions with a question mark. So here we're going to read the sentence before the question mark. If he divides the food equally among the dogs, how many ounces of food will each dog get, right? So that's really my question I need to answer. How many ounces of food does each dog get, right? So first thing we want to do is we want to identify the problem, right? So first is to ID the problem, right? Now, the second step is that we need to figure out what is the important information out of this problem. What are they giving us that we're going to need to use? Well, let's see. To feed 9 dogs, he empties 8 18-ounce cans of dog food into a large bowl. He divides the food equally for the dogs, right? So equally among the dogs lets me know that every dog gets the same amount. I also see here that there are 9 dogs, right? So I have 9 dogs. Let's see, how much food do we end up with? He has 8 18-ounce cans of dog food, right? So we have 8 18-ounce cans, right, into a large bowl equally, right? So again, first we identify the problem. Second is we identify the important info, right? Like, what are we going to use? Now, the final thing is that we need to figure out how are we going to use it. So how are we going to solve it? So let's transfer our information to our next page, right? So again, we have 9 dogs. We have 8 18-ounce cans of dog food. We know that every dog gets the same amount of food. We also know that our question is how much does each dog get, right? So how much does each dog get? So I look at this and I like to think to myself, well, what are the big ideas that I really need to know, right? And I need to know how many dogs do I have? I've got that, right? It tells me right up here that I have 9 dogs. And then if I want to know how much food they each get, then I need to know how much food I actually have. Well, I have 18-ounce cans of dog food and I have 8 of them, right? So I know that I need to take that and figure out something with it. So to find out how much dog food I actually have, I'm going to multiply 8 times 18. So let's go ahead and do that really fast. 18 times 8, well, 8 times 8 is 64. 8 times 1 is 8. We're going to add in the 6, and that's going to give us 14. So I know that I have 144 ounces of dog food, and I'm going to share that with my 9 dogs. Now, if they all get the same amount, and I have 9 of them, right, then fair sharing sounds a lot like division. So I'm going to extend this page. I'm going to take my 144 ounces of dog food, and I'm going to divide it by my 9 dogs, right? So 144 divided by 9 equals what? One way that I can do this is I can use the same strategy that I used yesterday in 1.8, and I can use the distributive property. And I can think to myself, well, 9 times 10 equals 90. And 144 minus 90 leaves me with 4. 14 minus 9 is 5. And then I say to myself, well, 9 times, and let's think about it for a second, 9 times 6 equals 54. So then that means that I add together my 10 and my 6. So 9 times 16 equals 144. So that means that 144 divided by 9 equals 16. So each dog gets 16 ounces of food, right? If you need to review this, go ahead and rewind it back and take a look at it again. Otherwise, let's go ahead and move on and look at the next one. So in this problem, we're dealing with Michelle. And it says Michelle is building shelves for her room. She has a plank that's 137 inches long that she wants to cut into 7 shelves of equal length. The plank has jagged ends, so she will start by cutting off 2 inches from each end. How long will each shelf be? Right, so again, they lay it out for us. What do we need to find? What's our problem? And our problem is right here. It's how long will each shelf be? What information do we need? Well, if we're talking about like shelves, right, then we probably need to know the number of shelves, right? We also probably need to know like how much wood we have to work with. So, right, so amount of wood. These are like our two big ideas. So we're going to look back here and we see that she has 7 shelves that she wants to make, right? So that seems important. We also know that her plank is 137 inches long. Now that kind of seems like the amount of wood, but if we keep reading, we'll see that the plank has jagged ends. And so she's going to start by cutting 2 inches off of each end, right? So she's not going to use all 137 inches. She's going to get rid of some of it. So we need to figure out how are we going to use this information? Well, if we're getting rid of something, we're not using it, then that sort of sounds like subtraction to me, right? So let's go ahead and put this on a new page. We know that we started with 137 inches of wood, and we're going to cut 2 inches from each end. And this is important because a board, right, has got, if we make it jagged like hers was, right, a board has got 2 ends. So if we cut it here and we cut it here, then this is 2 inches and this is also 2 inches. So we don't just cut off 2 inches, but we cut off 2 inches 2 times. So that is 4 inches. So we have 137 inches and we're going to subtract from that 4 inches, right? 2 for this end and 2 for the other. So 137 minus 4 leaves us with 133 inches of wood for our shelves. We also know that we're going to make 7 shelves. I'm going to review it just to make sure, right? But she's building shelves for her room. She wants to cut it into 7 shelves. Oh, here's a key word, right? Equal. Right, so these shelves are all going to be the same length. So we're going to end up dividing. Again, we're going to use the distributive property to help us out here. So we're going to set it up like this. We're going to say 7 times something equals 133. We're going to start by multiplying that 7 by 10 because again, 10 ends in a 0 and it's easy to multiply by. 7 times 10 is 70. We subtract that. Right, so after she makes 10 shelves, she's used 70 inches of wood. That's what division does here. It takes away things in groups. 3 minus 0 is 3. 13 minus 7 leaves me with 6. So now I think to myself, well, 7 times what equals 63? And luckily, 7 times 9 equals 63. We're going to add our two factors together here. 10 plus 9 is 19. That means that each of her 7 shelves is 19 inches long. Again, if you need to review this one to take a look at it, you can. Otherwise, let's go ahead and move forward. Now, with this one, what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to read this problem and then pause the video to see if you can solve it on your own, and then come on back and check and see if your answer matches mine. So here, this problem says to make concrete mix, Monica pours 34 pounds of cement, 68 pounds of sand, 14 pounds of small pebbles, and 9 pounds of large pebbles into a large wheelbarrow. She pours the mixture into 9 equal-sized bags. How much will each bag weigh? So again, go ahead and pause it and then see if you can figure it out. I'm going to go ahead and get started. How much will each bag weigh is my final question. My important information is that we are going to use 9 equal-sized bags. And then I need to know how much all of this weighs together, right? How much does her concrete mix weigh? Well, she puts in, I'm just going to go ahead and make a list, right? So she puts in 34 pounds of cement, 68 pounds of sand, 14 pounds of small pebbles, 19 pounds of large pebbles. So I'm going to add all of that together to find out the total weight of her mixture. So 4 plus 8 plus 4 plus 9. Let's see, 4 and 4 is 8. 8 plus 8 is 16. 16 plus 9 is 25, right? 2 plus 3 is 5, plus 6 more is 11. And then plus 1 is 12, and plus another one is 13. So that means that once we put it all together, it weighs 135 pounds. Now, the second part of what I need to do with this is that I need to take this 135 pounds and I need to distribute it equally into 9 bags. So I get 135 divided by 9. Again, I'm going to set this up like we've been doing for the distributive property. So 9 times what equals 135? Well, I'm going to start by multiplying 9 by 10, and that is 90. So I'm going to subtract that. 5 minus 0 is 5. 13 minus 9 is 4. And then 9 times 5 equals 45. So 10 plus 5 is 15. And that means that each bag weighs 15 pounds. And I know that this isn't the correct question, right? But each bag weighs 15 pounds. All right, let's try one final one. Again, pause it after we read through it and then come back and check and see how you did. Here, Taylor is building dog houses to sell. Each dog house requires 3 full sheets of plywood, which Taylor cuts into new shapes. The plywood is shipped in bundles of 14 full sheets. How many dog houses can Taylor make from 7 bundles of plywood? So our question that we need to figure out is, again, go ahead and pause it, right? So our question is how many dog houses, right? So how many dog houses can Taylor make from 12 bundles of plywood? So what I need to understand, right, is how much wood it takes to make one doghouse. And I also need to know how much wood he has, right? So I know that it takes 3 full sheets to make one doghouse, right? It says right here, each doghouse requires 3 full sheets. So I know that I need 3 sheets per doghouse. So each doghouse needs 3 sheets. I also need to know how much wood does Taylor have to work with? Well, a bundle gives me 14 sheets, and he is going to get 12 bundles, right? So total wood is going to be 12 bundles, and then each bundle has 14 sheets. So it seems like we need to multiply 12 times 14. And then after we find the answer to that, we're going to just divide it by 3. Well, 12 times 14 is, we'll do that over here, right? So times 12 is 14 times 2 is 28, and 10 times 14 is 140, and then we add those together, and we get 168 sheets, and we're going to divide that by 3 because each doghouse takes 3 sheets. I'm going to set it up like we've been doing, right? So 3 times what equals 168. Now, every other time I've started with 3 times 10, but I know that 168 is a lot bigger than 30. So I'm going to start with something a little bit bigger. I'm going to start with, say, 20, right? I mean, it's not a lot bigger, but it's little. So 3 times 20 is 60. I subtract that, and I am left with 108. So now I say, well, that's bigger than 60. So I do another 3 times 20, which again equals 60. That leaves me with 48. Extend it down. So now 48 is less than 60. So I'm going to do 3 times 10, and that's 30, which leaves me with 18. And now I know that 3 times 6 equals 18. And so I've used up all of my sheets of plywood. Now, what I have to do, right, is I have to put all of these numbers back together because I multiplied by 20 once and twice, and I multiplied by 10, and then I multiplied by 6. And maybe you multiplied by 10 over and over and over again, or maybe you saw right away that 3 times 50 would equal 150, and you started there. Either way, we should all get to the same answer. 20 plus 20 is 40. 40 plus 10 is 50. 6 more means that we have 56. So 3 times 56 equals 168, which means that Taylor can make 56, and it does that every time, 56 doghouses from his 12 bundles that each include 14 full sheets of plywood. All right, try some problems in this lesson, and hopefully you do well. Let me know if you have any questions. Good luck.